straight and bright. By the light of the Word.
Today on Light of the Word with Pastor Ray.
And they're going to march through the night, forced march through the night. And they're going to come up against a organized Ammonite army that's obviously well-trained and led by a ruthless man. And Saul's going to come up. They're going to force march through the night, 20 miles, undetected, and they're going to wipe out the whole Ammonite army.
Open your heart to us, Lord, so we can know your word. We come before you, Jesus. Speak to our hearts as we discover your love for us. How wide, how deep, how far. Pour into us so we can learn to follow. One surrender at a time. You have made the way for us to know you, a path that's straight and bright. By the light of the Word.
In 1 Samuel chapter 11, Israel faced an organized Ammonite army that was led by a ruthless leader. Everyone observing the battle thought that the Jews were no match for their opponent. However, what the Ammonite army failed to realize was that it was not Saul they were fighting, but the Lord. In today's message, Pastor Ray teaches us that just as Israel was miraculously delivered from their enemies when the Lord fought for them, we too will be delivered when we trust in Him. The battle is the Lord's. Well, let's join Pastor Ray for today's edition of Light of the Word from the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 11.
Why do we get surprised when believers don't hit perfection? Why do we look at them and go, I can't believe that? I can't believe that they didn't hit perfection. Saul, I can't believe you didn't hit perfection. And we can look at this other believer and we go, I can't believe that you haven't hit this perfection. And then all of a sudden we can find ourselves coming into this critical attitude about them. And you know what? The last thing you'll do when you come into this critical attitude, the last thing you'll do is cross the Jordan River to go fight for them. You'll find yourself, you know what? You brought that on yourself. You know what? I'm just going to leave you on your own. Oswald Chambers had a great word this week. If you read his devotion, you might not be able to read that, but I'll read it to you. 2 Corinthians 5:10, for we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ. Paul says that we must all, preachers and people alike, appear before the judgment seat of Christ. If you learn to live in the white light of Christ here and now, judgment finally will cause you to delight in the work of God in you. Keep yourself steadily faced by the judgment seat of Christ. Walk in the light of the holiness you know. A wrong temper of mind about another soul will end in the spirit of a devil. No matter how saintly you are, one carnal judgment, and the end of it is hell in you. Drag it to the light at once and say, my God, I have been guilty there. If you don't, hardness will come all through. The penalty of sin is confirmation in sin. It is not only God who punishes for sin. Sin confirms itself in the sinner and gives back full pay. No struggling or praying will enable you to stop doing some things, and the penalty of sin is that gradually you get used to it and do not know that it is sin. No power save the incoming of the Holy Ghost can alter the inherent consequences of sin. But if we walk in the light as He is in the light, walking in the light meant for many of us walking according to our standards for another person. The deadliest Phariseeism today is not hypocrisy, but unconscious unreality. And that is so true when we start looking at people. I can't believe you weren't perfect. And we start this critical spirit against them. Saul, you don't surprise me because I look at the picture of Saul nearly every day as I look in the mirror. And I do want to ask this. Where's Samuel? Why isn't Samuel there? Why isn't Samuel with Saul training him up to be a king after God's own heart? So we see lots of things that we can go, why? But God is still great. And let's look at this. They're encamped. They're facing utter destruction. Verse 6-8. Then the Spirit of God came upon Saul when he heard this news, and his anger was greatly aroused. So he took a yoke of oxen, cut them into pieces, sent them throughout all the territory of Israel by the hands of messengers, saying, whoever does not go out with Saul and Samuel to battle, so it shall be done to the oxen. And the fear of the Lord fell on the people, and they came out with one consent. When he numbered them in Bezek, the children of Israel were 300,000, and the men of Judah 30,000. 330,000 people rally around Saul. And we see Saul, he's raised with an indignation of the injustice that's going to happen here. Why is that? Is it because he's king? Just a little side note. 400 virgins from Jabesh Gilead were given to 600, so 400 of the 600 men of Benjamin. About 300 years ago, that event happened. These are relatives. This is Saul's relatives. He might know these people personally because of that thread that goes through there. But we're going to see more so why. Let's crank through this. Verse 9-11, help is on the way. And they said to the messengers who came, thus you shall say to the men of Jabesh Gilead, tomorrow by this time the sun is hot, you shall have help. Then the messengers came and reported it to the men of Jabesh, and they were glad. I bet they were. Therefore the men of Jabesh said, tomorrow we will come out to you, and you may do with us whatever seems good to you. So it was on the next day that Saul put the people in 3 companies, and they came into the midst of the camp, and in the morning watch, and killed Ammonites until the heat of the day. And it happened that those who survived were scattered, so that no 2 of them were left together. They are on a run, and they are being scattered. Saul is bringing a total destruction upon them. I can tell you this. It's obvious. Nahash didn't expect this, did he? Nahash, they're sleeping. They're sleeping, even though they're told tomorrow we'll be ready to fight. His army's sleeping. Picture Satan, total confidence. But here's the thing. Nahash didn't expect this. Because you know who he thought he was fighting? Saul. He missed this. 1 Samuel 11:6. Then the Spirit of God came upon Saul when he heard this news, and his anger was greatly aroused. Last week, what did we study? 1 Samuel 10:6. Then the Spirit of the Lord will come upon you, and you will prophesy with them and be turned into another man. Verse 9, so it was when he had turned his back to go from Samuel that God gave him another heart, and all those signs came to pass that day. Nahash thinks he's going to fight Saul. He doesn't know about the Spirit of God. When the Spirit of God comes upon a man or comes upon a woman, they turn into another person. And we talked about the baptism of the Holy Spirit, and that study's out online if you missed it. But you shall receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you shall be witnesses to me in Jerusalem and in all Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth. Nahash thinks he's fighting Saul the farmer. He doesn't know that he's fighting Saul, the man with the Spirit of God upon him. And when the Spirit of God comes upon you, believer, you can do things that you'll never be able to do in and of yourself. You will do things of victory over sin in your life because of the Spirit of God, and only through the Spirit of God. All the self-will in your life, you'll eventually fall. But when the Spirit of God comes into you, out it goes, because it can't stand anywhere near and fight and win a battle against you when the Spirit of God is in you. And then when the Spirit of God comes upon you and overflows you for the ministry, there is nothing Nahash the serpent can have victory over. Nahash thinks, I'm fighting Saul the farm boy. He doesn't know you're fighting Saul, the man with the baptism of the Holy Spirit overflowing him, and he now is the one you're facing. And let's look and see as it goes even more so. Verses 12 through 13. Then the people said to Samuel, who is he who said, shall Saul reign over us? Bring the men that we may put them to death. But Saul said, not a man shall be put to death this day, for today the Lord has accomplished salvation in Israel. Saul gives victory absolutely 100% to the Lord. Back in the last chapter, some men didn't follow Saul. They said, who's Saul that we should follow? And Saul kept his peace. And now, after the great victory, people are going, remember those guys who said, who's Saul? Let's go get him. Let's go kill him. Saul goes, nobody's dying today. Nobody's dying in Israel today because the battle was totally the Lord's. He's not taking any credit for it. And there's a place and a practice, an example for us when God works. It was all the Lord. But here, Saul's like, nobody's dying today. I want you to consider this. I want you to consider what happened here. Saul's in Gibeah down here at the bottom. Bezek's where 330,000 men of Israel will gather. That's about 40 miles, Gibeah to Bezek. They're going to march over and cross over, whichever point they go through. Jabesh Gilead's about 20 more miles. Word comes. Now, how long did it take from Jabesh Gilead to get the word down to Saul? Let's just say it's at least a day. What I'm getting at, this is 7 days. Follow through what happens in 7 days. In 7 days, Saul, a farmer, is going to gather 330,000 men to war. Now I want you to consider this. They haven't fought a fight in 20 years. Because remember what we studied, there was peace in Israel under Samuel, and their enemies were put at bay. They even went and took back land that the Philistines had taken. There was peace and prosperity under Samuel for 20 years up to this point. They haven't fought in 20 years. So here you're gathering 330,000 men who haven't fought in 20 years, and I just wonder, what were the shape of their weapons? Were guys showing up with clubs? We're going to read in chapter 14, there's going to be a fight against the Philistines, and Israel doesn't even have weapons. So I don't know what all their situation with these weapons are, but maybe they're showing up with clubs. Maybe they're showing up with pitchforks. Is this starting to sound a little unbelievable? It's starting to get a little unbelievable. Israel's 40 miles down, 40 miles up, 330,000 men within 7 days are gathering at Bezek, and then they're going to join together, and they're going to march through the night, forced march through the night, and they're going to come up against a organized Ammonite army that's obviously well-trained and led by a ruthless man. And Saul's going to come up. They're going to force march through the night, 20 miles, undetected, and they're going to wipe out the whole Ammonite army. That's pretty amazing. If I was to take any military person, anybody here in the military would go, that's pretty far-fetched. 330,000 untrained men gathered and then meet at Bezek. And I'm actually going to be able to communicate how to send 3 companies, we read, 100,000 here, 100,000 here, 100,000 here, and put them all in order and then come against this well-organized. I look at those things and I go, man, this is like Bible stories. This is pretty unbelievable. I put it right into, it's a miracle. And that's what happens. Miracles happen when the Spirit of God comes upon you. Things that you could never do, things that you could never do in and of yourselves, things that would be absolutely impossible become possible when the Spirit of God. Christian, you need the Spirit of God upon you. But I want to tell you, so I look at this and I go, these Bible stories, especially these type of stories, is there anything that relates remotely to them today? Are there any miracles? Because if I can find miracles that happen today in my lifetime, then I can make the statement of they're not just Bible stories, they're stories that are still alive and well today. And I want to tell you a story. 1976. Anybody remember this story? Who is of age? Air France takes off from Tel Aviv, Israel. About 250 passengers. Immediately in flight, hijacked, which will become a total of 7 terrorists. 2 of them are neo-Nazis, still upset about wanting to see the Jews wiped off. The other are Palestinian Liberation Organization, the ruthless terrorism group that just wants to see Israel wiped off the face of the earth. Takes off, hijacked on June 27th, 1976. Lands, various places, lands. I wrote down some more of the details. Takes off. We're going to see a top flight path from Israel and lands all the way down here, 2,400 miles away in Uganda, in Entebbe. Anybody remember that? Anybody remember Idi Amin, the madman? He is counted by that he's killed in his lifetime at least 500,000 people. He's ruthless. He joins with the terrorists. He's part of this because whatever reason, he wants to see Israel wiped off. They take 150 non-Jewish people on the plane and they let them go. And they keep 100 of the Jewish Israeli people there in the airport in Entebbe. And then they say, we will release them if you release, and they gave a list of 53 hostages. Terrorists that were imprisoned in Israel. You release those 53 of our brother terrorists, we'll release your 100. And here's what happens. In 7 days, the nation of Israel, and by the time the war planning begins, it's a couple days in. They're not sure where all this is going. It's called the Rescue in Entebbe, Operation Thunderbolt. The nation of Israel, within 7 days, organizes a military strike plan that will take their soldiers, 200 of their special ops commando. Mind you, the nation's only about 200, or is only about 20 years old at this time. They take 200 of their special ops with 4 C-130 airplanes, and they fly 2,400 miles in the middle of the night. And they call it nap of the earth, near aperture of the earth. They said that sometimes the airplane was only 35 feet off the ground because they have to fly 2,400 miles undetected because this is going to be a covert surprise military strike on a foreign field that has never been done in the history of war. Anybody ever fly in any of those environments? I was on 2 flights when I was working at a former job, and I got the feel of what that nap of the earth, where you're literally flying 10, 20 feet off. I have to tell you, I needed the airbag. They report that the whole plane was covered with vomit because they flew almost 2,400 miles on the skim of the earth. So they land the airplane. They jump out of the airplane. They made a mock car. They had to find the exact car that Idi Amin drove, this Mercedes. They couldn't find the exact color. They had to spray paint it. And what the plan was, they were going to land in Entebbe, and then they were going to quickly get this car out, and they were going to make it seem like Idi Amin was coming to make a visit to the hostages, and that they would let them go. So they plan this. They get in, and they start making the move to the terminal, and then they get past checkpoints, 100 Entebbe guards, 7 terrorists. They make it through the checkpoint. Gunfire starts. They run and they dash and they sprint into the terminal, have a gunfight in 3 minutes and kill all the terrorists dead. And within 7 minutes, they had every 100 hostages out of the building and back into the C-130. And they had to refuel the C-130 in Entebbe to start with. It was only after the mission began that they were able to broker a deal with Kenya, and Kenya says, you can land your plane and you can fuel up. But they started to fuel the plane, so they had to secure the runway, they had to defeat an army, and they rescued the hostages. So they got this battle going on here, they're battling Ugandan guards, and they're refueling an airplane, and they land at 11 o'clock at night. They land at 11 o'clock at night, literally the middle of the night that all this begins. It's considered the most successful counter-terrorist military operation in our modern time. Does God still do stuff like what we just read with King Saul? Yes, absolutely. Where's the miracle in this story? I want to share some of the things for your consideration. They have 7 days only to plan this sophisticated of an operation. They do it alone. They don't have the Five Eyes. They don't have the UK, the United States, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. This is total covert. They're not getting any help from anybody. 2,400 miles undetected. No return fuel plan, total faith. Runway lights, 11 o'clock at night. It ain't like today. The Entebbe airport left the runway lights on. They say they should have been off. They left the runway lights on. The control tower is only 1,000 feet. It's only 1,000 feet from the runway. Anybody here work with airplanes? Anybody ever been around C-130s? Boy, they'll burn your ears up. Those babies are loud. Those engines, they call them Hercules, man, no one heard them land. No one saw them land. They have snipers and guards up on the control tower, and no one hears them. There was a whole squadron of MiG airplanes, and there was no MiG pilots, so there was nobody to give chase after the battle's over. They take out 100 soldiers, 7 terrorists, and they execute inside this terminal to perfection, because guess what? Guess who built the terminal 2,400 miles away? An Israeli construction firm. And mind you, you know that nap of the earth? Anybody ever get airsick or seasick? Whole plane's covered with vomit. They land a plane and they turn into military commandos instantly. I get seasick, man. I get airsick. Don't talk to me for at least a day. These guys jump in a car and go and execute one of the most sophisticated military operations in the history. You know what I want to tell you? These miracles still do happen today. They're known as the people of the book, God's chosen people. And now here we sit 2,000 years later from the time of Christ. We are the people of the book. In a sense, I'm not talking replacement theology. I am talking we are the people of the book, and we live by this book, and we are the chosen generation that God promises his blessing upon us. And I want to tell you, miracles still happen. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And there is no plan that Nahash, the serpent, can plan against you. They can have victory, if you will, as Saul did. Just yield it to the Lord and say, this is your way, your word, your will, Lord, and I'm just going to follow you. And you will never have anything that could defeat you. There is no weapon that formed against you that can pass and succeed when we say, Lord, it's all you.
You have made the way for us to know you, a path that's straight and right. By the light of the word.
Thanks for tuning in today to Light of the Word. This message from Pastor Ray Bolus is part of a larger series that is giving us a new understanding of the Old Testament book of 1 Samuel. If you missed any part of the teaching or would like to explore more from Light of the Word, you'll be able to do so at our website, ccaac.org. Search through our library of audio messages from books of the Bible, special topics, and guest speakers, or take a look through Pastor Ray's message notes. You'll also find a link on our homepage to download our mobile app to take these teachings with you on the go. If you have any questions about this program or would like to share a prayer request with us, We'd love to hear from you. You can email us at mail@ccaac.org. That's mail@ccaac.org. We're honored to lift up our valued listeners in prayer, and we commit to do that for you as well. Are you part of a church family? Engaging in the Word with other believers is a great way to show your faith while finding and being able to give support. If you're in the Anne Arundel County, Maryland area, come join us at Calvary Chapel of Anne Arundel County. Visit ccaac.org for service times and details. We're excited to see you there. Thanks again for tuning in today for Light of the Word, illuminating the heart of God.